1993. The occasion is the highly anticipated screen debut of a pop superstar. That superstar, of course, was Whitney Houston, and the film was The Bodyguard. The Bodyguard story, that is, that of the script, stretches back to the 70s. In 1975, Lawrence Kasdan, a madman or advertising copywriter, began writing scripts in his spare time. One such script, inspired by the Japanese samurai film Yojimbo, The Bodyguard, caught the attention of an agent, something his previous works failed to do. The agent tenaciously submitted the script 67 times over the course of 2 years, but to no avail. It was subsequently sold to film producer and executive John Calley for $20,000. John Boorman was to direct, and Kasdan even flew to Ireland to do a treatment for the film. By 1978, after negotiations for Steve McQueen to play the lead fell through, it seemed Lawrence Kasdan was set to have his breakthrough as a Hollywood screenwriter, as Diana Ross and Ryan O'Neal were casted as the leads. Diana Ross, fresh off the failure of The Wiz, was engaged in an affair with Ryan O'Neal. She had major issues with the script, and by August, before cameras had even rolled, she pulled out of the film. Kasdan would later find big success writing for Star Wars and other blockbuster films, but as for the story of a diva pop star and her bodyguard, it would linger in developmental hell for about 8 years. By 1986, Whitney Houston was the best thing since, well, Diana Ross, and it was reported in Billboard magazine that she was to star in The Bodyguard with Clint Eastwood. Though speculative, when Kasdan did decide to produce the film himself, his co-producers wanted Whitney Houston. It took Kevin Costner, who read the screenplay while working with Kasdan on Silverado, to convince Whitney that she could pull off the project, as she'd only done appearances on sitcoms such as Give Me a Break and Silver Spoon. She preferred to move her way up like most actors. Costner's eventual success with films such as Dances with the Wolves propelled the project into production. With a 2-time Oscar winner in her corner, her reluctance subsided, and in April of 1991, a whole 12 years after the script had been shopped to development hell, he announced to the world that he and Whitney Houston would appear in the film together.
This new movie you're doing now, I know you rushed over it, The Bodyguard?
Right. It's a movie written by a friend of mine, Larry Kasdan, who's written some great movies for us, Body Heat, Silverado, Billy's latest, Grand Canyon. You know, he's just one of the great writers. It's called Bodyguard, and I'm doing it with Whitney Houston. It's her first movie.
That'd be a good bodyguard. Yeah. So they put you guys that are good audiences, you know.
The script underwent a myriad of changes, with at least 10 rewrites. Later drafts of the script emphasized close-up shots of Whitney and omitted the nudity that deterred Diana from seriously committing to the project. By 1991, Diana Ross was a living legend who strutted runways with her daughter because she could, and her only affiliation with films was a soundtrack, while Whitney Houston was a star in her own right, having been named Musical Performer of the Year at the American Cinema Awards in January of that year.
Whitney has there's so much energy, and she's there for everything and everybody. So I came from Atlanta. LA and Face couldn't be here, but I had to come and give my support to her tonight.
She's a young woman, and she's beautiful, and she can sing. She can cut the mustard, as we say. And I think this is a great honor for her and for them also.
I think it's fabulous. I don't think anyone deserves it more, and no one could be prouder of her than her two parents.
I think that Whitney Houston has done a lot in terms of just creating the sound and just giving us another artist to look up to. I think it's really positive, you know, the music and her whole style. And I think, you know, she's an inspiration to little girls coming up to pursue their dreams. And so I'm happy and I'm excited about seeing her.
By the time The Bodyguard went into pre-production, she was the leading lady of Arista Records with 3 RIAA certified albums, 8 #1 pop hits, and a host of accolades under her belt. Whitney would grace the cover of the May 1991 issue of Ebony magazine, and in Lynn Norment's revealing article, reported receiving offers from Spike Lee, Quincy Jones, and Robert De Niro. She later divulged that she was to star in The Bodyguard alongside Kevin Costner, which was to begin filming that fall.
I'd love to do a film with Mr. De Niro. I think he's a brilliant actor. I do, but I am doing a movie with Kevin Costner in the fall.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. What's that one about?
This one's about, it's called The Bodyguard. You know, he's a bodyguard, and I'm very famous and stuff, and, you know, it's a lot of action and a lot of suspense, and, you know, so it's a really good film. I think you might like it.
You haven't started work on it yet?
No, no, after the tour.
By October, the tour was finished, and the following month, filming began in Los Angeles, California. ABC News camera crews were with her both on the tail end of the tour and during shooting of The Bodyguard, as she was to have her first hour-long special. The plot of The Bodyguard centers around a pop star and actress, Rachel Marin, who, at the height of her success, dealt with a violent, crazed fan and hired Frank Farmer, a former Secret Service agent, to be her bodyguard. Of course, after some pushback, they fell in love. Mick Jackson directed the film. On set, Costner and Houston had a strong respect for one another. Kevin promised to teach Whitney how to act, while Whitney promised to teach Kevin how to sing. By March of 1992, the film was shot and went into post-production. In July, after a 3-year relationship that began at the 1989 Soul Train Awards, Whitney, an ex-New Edition member, and New Jack crooner Bobby Brown were wed in a lavish ceremony at her grandiose New Jersey home, putting to rest swirling rumors about her sexuality. Arista Records' request for songs on the Bodyguard soundtrack set off a frenzy, with songwriter Alan Rich saying everyone and their mother was trying to play songs on Whitney. Ultimately, she'd end up working with Babyface first on a tune he and Daryl Simmons wrote entitled Queen of the Night. Days later, she worked with David Foster on I Have Nothing and Run to You. In search for the key moment plot song of the film, it was suggested Whitney cover Jimmy Ruffin's What Becomes of the Broken Hearted, but when it became a big hit on the soundtrack of Fried Green Tomatoes, the search resulted in a reworking of a Dolly Parton song Kevin Costner had to convince Whitney to record. In a May 1992 USA Today interview, she haphazardly revealed that while on set of The Bodyguard, she suffered a miscarriage, saying, "People get word and people call up the papers, and I guess say it, but it was really something like that would happen. It's a very normal situation. It happens to women all the time. It's just that I'm this person. She's like us, I guess. She miscarriages too. But when I'm ready to talk about it, I will. I'll straighten it out." Whitney was interviewed via satellite at her new New Jersey home, Arsenio Hall, where she discussed her new home as well as The Bodyguard and her upcoming ABC special, This Is My Life.
I know this lady, for those of you just tuning in, one of the best-selling, best-sounding singers of all time. We're live satellite at the home of Whitney Houston in Jersey. Whitney, how long has this house been finished?
Well, Arsenio, I've been living in this house for about 6 years now.
Now, you were on the road, and I guess you just didn't get to it when it was finished?
Well, yeah, you know how you work a lot and you can't get to some of those things that you'd like to.
Yeah.
You know, so I had it built while I was on tour.
So was it hard to adjust when you first moved into it?
Yes, it was. It was difficult to adjust to. It's very roomy. You know, you get all these different sounds and different things that you have to become accustomed to. But it was difficult when I first moved in.
You got a special coming up tomorrow night, right?
That's right.
What is this special?
This special is about me.
And what will we see if we tune in? I bet Kevin Costner's in it somewhere.
How you know? Did you see the tape? Arsenio, I asked you very nicely
I know,
to look at the tape. Why didn't you look at the tape?
It's been real busy here. Yes.
No, honey. When I talked to you, you weren't busy. Now you're busy because you're doing your show.
Okay, I'm gonna look at it as soon as I finish, and we're all gonna look at it tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, okay.
No, actually, Whitney, I just assumed that Kevin was in it because I know you all just completed photography on a new film.
That's right. We just finished shooting The Bodyguard, so we added some, scenes of the movie into the special.
Yeah, okay, let's look at a scene from the special. Sandy, if you have something queued up, what I'd like to do is show them something from the special. And Whitney, go to another room. We want to see another room, right?
Okay.
Whitney Houston's life has been the stuff of Hollywood legend. Now it's the subject of a new one-hour TV special that sings praises about the past and illuminates the future.
A week or so later, ABC aired her first hour-long TV special, Whitney Houston, This Is My Life.
They'll be glad to know that I'm like them, that I joke around, I laugh, I act really crazy. Really crazy. When I wake up in the morning, I'm not all that put together. Nobody is.
Serious actress, serious.
Whitney is also starring with Kevin Costner in her first movie, The Bodyguard. She says working with Costner was a treat.
He's a professional. And a lot of fun. Real homeboy, real down to earth, Kevin takes the time to show you things that he really doesn't have to, I mean, at this point, he's an agent.
Ready, and let's roll. We're rolling. Rolling. Hey. Right next to it.
So is this a full service day, Frank? I'm just asking you to dance.
And Whitney has, no one ever knows when you first start, but she has so many skills. And she's so aware of everything around her. And there is just an abundance of talent within this woman. It's a gift, it's God's gift to her.
You know what's funny? He's a music lover. He loves music. So he had a natural feel, really, for what he wanted and what the sounds he wanted. Really, Kevin did. He loves music, and I think that gave him an insight, to how he wanted the music to fit in the movie, which was really great, because we worked good like that together.
Right. Once we decided what Whitney didn't like, we found the music she did, and I just agreed to it.
I had to do a scene with him where I was angry with him, and I had to hit him.
There's a gentleness about her that didn't make her feel comfortable hitting me and having to hit me hard and hit me over and over again. It was required, and so, it's nice to hear that she didn't like doing it, but she had to do it.
That was so difficult for me, to actually put my hand up to him and slap him. Usually I don't slap people unless I have a very good reason.
Variety had this to say about the program. Whitney Houston is just your average multimillionaire international pop star next door. At least that's the message of this, her first network special. Whitney sleeps a lot, likes to laugh, and is engagingly awkward on stage as she rambles through such hits as I Wanna Dance with Somebody and Saving All My Love for You, to name two of the set highlights. Scenes from her upcoming film debut with Kevin Costner in The Bodyguard are also spotlighted. Unless you love, love, love Whitney, there's absolutely no reason to tune in. Yikes. The last song to be recorded for the soundtrack was her rendition of Chaka Khan's I'm Every Woman in August of 1992. On November 2nd, the first single from the soundtrack, entitled I Will Always Love You, was released. A little over 2 weeks later, it debuted at number 40 on the Hot 100. In order to promote the film, Costner and Houston appeared on MTV's The Big Picture.
I know the person that was concerned about, where he was standing, how the lighting was hitting me, or, if the lines were coming out right.
She just gets up into rare air, man.
Bodyguard marks the motion picture debut of pop music diva Whitney Houston. She stars opposite Kevin Costner as Rachel Marin, a singer-actress whose manager hires ex-Secret Service agent Frank Farmer to be her personal bodyguard.
After the second album, I started thinking, maybe I'll do a movie someday, I didn't have any idea who or what, or any of those things that most people know, I guess, when they, start out looking for a film or project that they want to do. I had no idea. So, being that I had no idea, I just thought, well, I'll just wait for that right one to come along, and if it does, hey, great, and if it doesn't, well, cool, But it did, and there was The Bodyguard.
For me, it was the part read, she stands up, she's neither beautiful or anything, but she's immediately recognizable. She's a superstar. And the combination of the presence that Whitney had with never being in a movie made everything worth the risk in my mind. In fact, so much so that I postponed the movie for a year to wait for her.
I kind of sat on it for a while, for a long while. I think longer than somebody who really wanted to do it would have said, yeah,
I called her, I said, I have this movie, you're who I'm thinking of, I'm not thinking of anybody else. It's almost yours to lose or to take. Why don't you read this? And she called me back and she got it. She understood.
Something hit me one day and it said, well, Whitney, there will probably never be another role like this for a woman, especially a black woman, to do again. The character is her own person. She's not subservient to anybody. She's very much in control of herself. Not much of her atmosphere, though. She knows what she wants, and she is a diva. So that kind of like kicked it in for me, I said, well, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and I'm not gonna bar none, So I decided to do it, and there we are.
Entertainment Weekly.
Well, Kevin Costner, of course, is a proven box office star, but there was some risk in casting Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard. Music videos are as close as she's been to a dramatic movie role. But Kevin told me he had faith because Whitney is the kind of performer who is both rare and irresistible.
There's many fabulous singers, but there's only there's that rare air of that voice and then statuesque. She's a world-class woman, and we've seen Streisand and we've seen Diana Ross, and Whitney is kind of in that exact same thing, and it's undeniable. We can't describe it, but we all know it when we see it, and I felt that when I saw Whitney.
So casting her was your choice?
Yeah, it was. In fact, there's a lot of questions about that, the wisdom of doing it, but at the end of the day, I have made some knothead decisions in my life, and I thought that she was like really worth it, but here we are, we're done, and she's really very, very special.
The fact that this was an interracial love story, did that cause any kind of awareness on the set? Did you approach it differently?
I really didn't, I mean, if it was a movie about an interracial thing, then the script would be a failure because it didn't deal with the interracial thing. But this was a story about a bodyguard protecting a superstar, and for me, that's end of story. The idea, I am kind of colorblind when it comes to people, and And there was discussion, should we address this issue? And I said, why? I said, it doesn't seem to be an issue to me.
There were rumors that the love scenes were much more extensive in the original shooting and those were cut.
Yeah, they were cut.
Why were they edited out?
Well, they weren't conceived well. You know, it happens in a movie. There was not a fear of me, you know, kissing Whitney because, or that racial thing, because I wouldn't allow the movie to be affected by some editorial or some outside fear. I don't operate that way. But it was very passionate and it was really strong. But when you saw it, it was like a miscalculation. And so it wasn't pulled out of fear, it was pulled out of, this is not good for the movie.
Kevin told me in his attempt to have a regular life, he likes to take his wife Cindy to the movies, and he calls The Bodyguard the ultimate makeout film. Whitney told me that before The Bodyguard, she had turned down a lot of movie offers, including Dreamgirls and the Josephine Baker story. She felt she wasn't ready to tackle acting, but Kevin Costner changed her mind.
I wanted to do a movie because I felt like it was just a natural progression, you know, like it's another stage, you know, for me. If anything, I felt like, can I do this movie? Can I really pull this movie off? I mean, I'm playing opposite Kevin Costner. I mean, he's well-trained and all that kind of stuff, and he knows what he's doing. He's done a zillion movies. I mean, how am I going to stand up against this thing, you know? And
this was major, Whitney.
This was major. But I talked with Kevin, and, you know, he made me feel so comfortable. He was just like, Whitney, don't worry about it. He said, whatever you need, we will supply for you. I said, well, maybe I should take acting lessons. Or he said, no, that one you don't need. We don't want you to do that. We want you to be just like you are. That's what we want. We want you and what you bring to the character, and that's it, you know. So I think I felt more insecure than I did the pressure of doing this film.
Do you have bodyguards? Was there one on the set when you were making the movie?
Yes, I do. I have bodyguards, and you know, I don't necessarily have to have one all the time. I don't want to say what times I don't have and what times I do have, you know. They are willing to take a bullet for you, punches, you know, all kinds of things that could put you in harm's way. They are willing to take that for you. That is a very, sometimes it boggles my mind. And I asked David, David is my security, I said, David, are you really willing to die for me? He says, yes, I am, governist. He calls me governist. Yes, I am governist.
I love that.
Yeah, right? So, you know, yeah, it's a very, it's a very delicate situation.
And The Today Show, among others.
Houston,
Bodyguard, hi.
good morning.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to Today. Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank you.
So, how was it? Acting, did you like it? I mean, was it fun?
Yeah, it was fun. You know, there was times that it was very hard. You know, took a lot of discipline to do a movie. You know, it's different from videos and music. You know, it's more confining. You know, but yeah, I had a great time, great experience.
What made you to decide to try your hand at acting, and why now? And why this movie?
I don't know. It just seemed like a natural progression, you know, another form of entertaining, you know. I wasn't really on a mission, you know, looking for a movie. I just decided that I wanted to do a movie, you know. I didn't know what kind of movie, I didn't know, you know, what kind of person I wanted to play, you know, as long as she was, you know, a good girl and had some integrity and some dignity. You know, that was my position. I really didn't, you know, say, I'm going to do this movie and I'm going to go out on this, you know, big journey to look for it. It just kind of came my way.
How did it come your way, Whitney? Did Kevin Costner approach you about this role, and how did it all come about?
He did. I got word that he had a script written by Larry Kasdan, written about 15 years ago, more than that, and that he was very interested in me playing the role of opposite him. And I didn't believe it, you know, so I called my agent and I said, you know, I'm hearing, you know, Kevin wants me to play this part in his next movie. And she said, well, let me find out. And she did. She said, yeah, it's true. You know, he wants you to play this part. So I said, really? So, you know, conversation began with his people and my people. And I finally got a script, you know, and I read it. And I waited for so long that he called me one day and he said, girl, what? Girl, when are you going to do this movie? Why aren't you going to do this movie with me? I said, well, Kevin, I haven't decided that I am or that I'm not. I'm just really trying to be careful about what I pick and choose, you know. So he said, listen, he said, I'm telling you something. If you do this movie with me, I guarantee you it will be something you'll be proud of.
This is a movie to take your girlfriend to. This is a movie where you sit in the theater and you put your arm around each other, and you know, maybe it's a movie about, you go make out after the movie. There's a general complaint that there's not enough good women's roles in Hollywood. Well, this ain't the case with this movie.
Someone was in my house?
Okay, let's not get hysterical, Bill.
Wait a minute, someone was in my house?
This is probably as big a woman's role that will occur in film this year, and Whitney has it.
Kevin Costner is the bodyguard and Whitney Houston is the body. It's her first foray into film.
So, are you a good actress?
I don't know, am I?
I think you are. I saw the movie last night.
Did you like it?
I did.
Did you think I was a good actress?
Yes, I did. Would I lie to you? No, I did.
You might.
On November 17th, as the premiere and theatrical release of the film inched closer, the soundtrack was released to retailers. It would go on to peak at number 1 for 20 non-consecutive weeks, a record for the SoundScan era. 7 days later, the film was premiered at Mann's Chinese Theater.
The Magic Johnson Foundation for Pediatric AIDS Research. Costner and Houston say they have high hopes for the movie.
What do you hope the audience will take with them and feel and remember most?
I think they get their money's worth. You know, I mean, everybody loves going on Friday, and everybody wants to not boo at the film. And I think that always makes me happiest when you walk out of the movie feeling good, feeling like that's what Friday nights are supposed to be about.
What was a fun aspect for you being in a film?
Being a woman, being a black woman, playing a very strong part. I think that's exciting enough.
It was theatrically released 2 days later. Critics were skewed on the project, with Entertainment Weekly lamenting the lack of chemistry between Costner and Houston, Roger Ebert commenting on the guarded passion between its leads, and The Hollywood Reporter noting that despite its tonal lapses, the film was plugged with zingy moments and charged by several scrumptiously mounted Houston performances. The Tampa Bay Times wrote, "Not many have made a debut with the ease and grace of Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard." That's not to say Houston delivered some boho performance. After all, she played a pop star and was clearly second banana to Kevin Costner, but her acting was natural and unforced. She seemed to have an intuitive sense of her limitations in front of the camera. The Bodyguard opened third at the box office for Thanksgiving weekend, grossing $16 million. I Will Always Love You peaked at number 1 on the Hot 100 on November 28th. The remainder of 1992 saw the film continuing to rank in millions at the box office, as well as Houston's pregnancy.
Whitney, are you there?
I sure am.
Whitney Houston. How nice of you to call in.
Hi, Dee.
Hi, baby. How you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
Getting fat?
Yeah, I'm at the doctor's office.
Are you?
Yeah, I am.
Is everything okay?
Everything's great. I'm just going for my little annual checkup, you know.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing good.
Good. Now, what month are you in, Whitney?
I am in the middle of my 6th month.
So you're getting big, huh?
Yeah, real big.
Do you know what you're going to have yet?
No.
Don't want to know?
I ain't telling either.
Is it good? Do you want a surprise?
Yeah, I want to be surprised.
Yeah.
As long as it's healthy and got 10 toes and 10 fingers and
A healthy, strong child.
There you go.
By the new year, Whitney was, of course, still pregnant and, of course, still at number 1 on the Hot 100. The second Whitney single from the Bodyguard soundtrack, a cover of Chaka Khan's I'm Every Woman, was released on January 2nd, 1993. That same month, she also graced the cover of Ebony magazine, giving insight into her pregnancy. The single debuted on the Hot 100 in January, and by the following month, it was a top 10 hit. It, much like I Will Always Love You, was a massive success overseas as well.
We're rolling.
I'm every woman. I have always loved the song. I love Shaka. I admire the work of Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson. Got a lot of energy, a lot of soul.
Just as that single hit its peak on the pop charts, the next single from the soundtrack came, a David Foster produced track entitled I Have Nothing. It too became a top 10 hit. In March, she gave birth to her first and only child, Bobby Christina Brown. By the release of the next single off of the soundtrack, it was already 8 times platinum and closely clearing 9. That single, Run to You, was released in June of 1993 and was a more moderate top 40 success.
Today, the New York Post reported that Whitney Houston was rushed to the hospital last week after she took an overdose of diet pills.
Her team had to fend off a rumor that she'd overdosed on diet pills, one which had been reported by the New York Post.
The person for Houston gave us the lowdown, saying the Post article is completely false. And the proof is that a healthy Houston will perform tonight at a Washington, D.C. fundraiser.
The following month, she embarked on the Bodyguard World Tour, with its first stop being in Miami, which, due to technical issues, did not go so well.
Views are in on Whitney Houston's concert at $50 a pop. Some fans of the pop diva were not pleased with her performance. Now,
Miami radio call-in lines buzzed with reports that Houston was even rude to the audience.
Okay, tell us, what did you think? She came out with an attitude that was so bad. She was even cruel to a little girl that came up and asked for her autograph.
I caught up with Whitney at Virginia's Wolf Trap Theater, where she confronted these reports head-on.
And you started in Miami,
yes,
and that got off to kind of a rocky start.
Yeah.
I want to get your side of this whole thing. What happened in Miami?
Okay.
Yeah.
This is what happened.
Yeah.
It was hot. 1,000 degrees. We were having a little technical problem, so it delayed the show a lot. They became very impatient and became a little unruly.
The crowd?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I stepped out on stage, and they were still a little upset, you know, about the time factor. So they started to boo and started to act kind of crazy and stuff, you know, and I just kind of told them how I felt about it.
What did you say?
I said to the audience, you know, my opening acts and myself, we worked very hard to give you the best that we've got, and all we ask from you is just a little courtesy. And that's exactly what I said.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the media says, you know, Whitney's a bad girl, she had an attitude problem, you know, which is not the case at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we you know, had a little thing at the beginning, but we became friends, and it was wonderful.
She'd do a U.S. leg, which lasted until the fall of 1993, with highlights such as her stop at Radio Music Hall, which the New York Times described by saying, her stylistic trademarks, shivery melismas that ripple up in the middle of a song, twirling embellishments at the ends of phrases that suggest an almost breathless exhilaration, infuse her interpretations with flashes of musical and emotional lightning. It even made the evening news.
Guess who's back in town?
Who?
Whitney Houston's back in town. And tonight, she kicked off the first of 5 sold-out performances at Radio City Music Hall. Whereas Laura Fair with us standing by right now at Radio City. Laura, was it a great show?
Katie, it is, and I can tell you that she is generating a lot of excitement down here at Radio City Music Hall. This is her first live concert here, and a lot of her fans couldn't wait to catch the show.
She can holler, she can sing. I mean, she lets you have it. She's good. She's just a great performer, wonderful performer.
Her fans of all ages and all colors and all backgrounds pushed to get inside Radio City Music Hall on this, her opening night. We even caught sight of celebrities like Aman.
I like the voice, the songs, the kind of song.
Have you ever seen her before?
No, that's the first time.
Are you real excited?
Yes, really.
Houston, a star since she burst on the scene in 1985, seemed to have it all. Hit records, sexy videos, a starring role in the movie The Bodyguard, marriage to Bobby Brown, and a new baby.
But success comes at a price. Critics panned her opening night in Miami. There's been controversy with fans. And of course, there is ugly headlines in the paper about diet pill usage.
In October, the final single from the soundtrack, Queen of the Night, was released to radio only, meaning it was ineligible to chart on the Hot 100. It did, however, chart in a host of countries overseas and received some airplay in the States. She then toured Europe, Asia, and South America, where she performed at the opening ceremony of the 1994 FIFA World Cup. Around this time, she also suffered a miscarriage.
Critics of her marriage to rapper Bobby Brown and that they were expecting their second child together. Sadly, Whitney Houston announced today that she has had a miscarriage. She has our best wishes.
She returned to the States for the second American leg before doing 3 dates in South Africa, making her the first major Western artist to perform there since the end of apartheid.
I'm here. Yeah. This side. Yeah.
Many of her tour dates made international news. The Johannesburg concert was aired on HBO and released on VHS as well. That same month, ABC aired a sit-down interview with Barbara Walters, where once again, she and Bobby Brown had to demonstrate to the world that their union was one of tranquility, this time with the aid of their daughter.
This was the scene last September. Little Bobby Christina was only 6 months old, and her famous parents were 1 year into a very controversial marriage of 2 very different pop stars. Your business manager has said that you are good for Whitney's image because it does kind of loosen her up, but that she might be bad for your image because you're supposed to be the bad boy.
It's not about image here, you know. It's
but
about
you know,
love.
it's been said, so.
It's been said, but that's what they say because it's business. It's not business with us. You know, this is love, and I think love is something more than business. It's not about that with us.
Do you believe in total fidelity?
Do I believe in what?
Total fidelity? Being faithful?
Oh, I am faithful. That's why I got married.
Told you.
By this time, the film had left theaters, having grossed a staggering $400 million globally, second only to Aladdin. Its soundtrack was by then multi-platinum and was the best-selling soundtrack of all time. Although The Bodyguard, for better or worse, would transform Nippy into the stuff of pop music legends, its box office and soundtrack success also meant she'd have to extend herself to uphold that, which ultimately only served to strengthen her substance abuse and thus shorten her time on Earth. On December 3rd, 1993, at the Billboard Music Awards, in a fiery red ensemble with husband Bobby Brown by her side, she walked away with a staggering 11 trophies, turning the Billboard Music Awards into, well, the Nippy Music Awards. That same month, MCA released Something in Common, a duet featuring Whitney and Bobby. In February, she received a Brit Award and swept at the American Music Awards. She delivered her iconic I Love You Porgy medley. The following month, at the Grammys, she continued her winning streak, taking home 3 trophies, including Record of the Year and Album of the Year. Award season, however, was not kind to the film, which was nominated at the 65th Academy Award for Best Song for both Run to You and I Have Nothing. It lose to Aladdin. It did sweep in nominations at the Razzie Awards, a not-so-good feat. With a successful film, a successful soundtrack, a host of awards, a spot on Forbes' 1994 list of richest celebrities, and Entertainment Weekly's top entertainers, a marriage, as well as a beautiful baby girl, it seemed Whitney Houston was untouchable. She was so popular that she sang for AT&T. Untouchable, Whitney Houston was not. As the Rolling Stones' Anthony DeCurtis eloquently put it, since Houston burst onto the scene at 21 in 1985, it's been easy for her to sell records, harder for her to get respect. The New York Post made up stories about her overdosing on diet pills, which led to a lawsuit. The tabloids were constantly nagging her marriage. Even during her June 1993 cover story in Rolling Stone, she staunchly had to defend her marriage and once again weighed off rumors that she and longtime friend and assistant Robin Crawford were secret lovers. In a 1993 Entertainment Weekly interview, Houston stated, "Once someone gets to be a success, there are a number of things that are going to be said about you automatically. One is that you're gay. One is that you've got a drug problem. The other one is that you have no idea what the hell you're doing." At one point, it hurt me to have to dignify what I wasn't with an answer. It used to F me up, to be honest with you. I used to go to my mother and say, "Why? Why is this happening? I can't be friends with women?" The media have to have some sort of tag on you, especially if you're private. That is the only thing I can come up with. You got any other theories? Simply put, the intense media scrutiny was a side effect of her having a relatively clean image. The scrutiny, however, soon would have the opposite effect. But for a moment in time, it really did seem like Whitney was every woman. The coming years will reveal that in the quest of being every woman, decisions were made that considered her more a notion than a woman, because by February of 1995, just 3 months after she finished the Bodyguard World Tour, Whitney Houston began filming a little movie called Waiting to Excel.